Throughout American history, few sites illustrate the highs and lows of industrial and military development like Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. From its beginning as an isolated coastal area to its transformation into a premier naval facility, Hunters Point shaped American naval power in the Pacific and played a key role during World War II. In fact, at its peak, the shipyard was home to the world's largest dry dock and cranes, a testament to the engineering powers of the time. However, as with many industrial sites, its decline was catastrophic, as operations left behind environmental challenges that would later come to light. So, how did this strategic military asset transform into a site of industrial cleanup and community reclamation? And what does Hunters Point mean to San Francisco today? Stay tuned to find out, as today we explore the rise and fall of Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. I'm your host, Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History. This video is sponsored by Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. If you love strategy and epic battles, this one will be right up your alley. Tacticus is a tactical strategy game where you command powerful champions in intense battles across dynamic battlefields. It's all about mastering your tactics and making precise moves to come out on top. The thing I love most is the sheer number of options for building your team. There are over 70 champions from 17 different factions to collect, with endless strategic possibilities. You can mix and match champions to find the best tactics to fit your playstyle. Dive into PvE campaigns for solo challenges, or jump into PvP for testing your skills against other players in real time. Plus, there are guild raids and live events, so there's always something new and exciting to dig into. Tacticus isn't just for Warhammer 40,000 fans either. It's perfect for newcomers who want to explore this universe. The player community is super passionate and active, so whether you're a total newbie or an experienced player, you can join, learn from others, and share your own strategies. So if you want to try Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus, there's a download link pinned in the comments, plus a QR code on screen so you can jump right in. And if you use the code NOVHELLO, you'll get 2,000 gold and 50 blackstones to give you a little extra boost to get started. This code's only available until December the 1st, so don't miss out. Download Tacticus and see for yourself why it's such a unique game. Thanks Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus for sponsoring this video. Now, back to our story. Long before the rise of industry, Hunters Point was a coastal region characterized by rich tidal wetlands and small hills. For centuries, the local native population called this land home, sustaining themselves on its resources and preserving their culture through sacred sites, such as shell mounds used for burials or ceremonies. These mounds, constructed from shells, soil, and artifacts, serve as lasting markers of their presence and deeply rooted spiritual beliefs. However, with the arrival of the Spanish explorers in the 1770s, significant changes began. Spanish missionaries, calling the indigenous inhabitants Costanons or coast dwellers, set up Franciscan missions throughout the region. The area was named La Punta Concha, or Conch Point, for its natural abundance of shellfish. By 1839, the land had been included in a Mexican land grant, marking the era of transition from Spanish to Mexican land ownership, a pattern that would continue into the American period. After the Mexican-American War, California entered a new era of rapid expansion sparked by the gold rush. Land speculation intensified around Hunters Point, though its isolated geography kept development slow. This geography, hemmed in by Mission Bay and Islas Creek, made access challenging. All the same, the area's maps were labeled Southern San Francisco. In 1858, San Bruno Road connected the area to the city, gradually improving access. Development was further stimulated when a city ordinance banned slaughterhouses within San Francisco city limits in 1868, driving butchers to Hunters Point. You see, Butcher's Town, as it was called back then, quickly grew along 3rd and Ingalls Street, hosting dozens of slaughterhouses, tanneries, and other factories. These operations created an infamous level of pollution, leading to sanitation reforms after a diphtheria outbreak in 1888. Yet, despite these health concerns, Butcher's Town remained active well into the early 20th century. establishing Hunters Point as an industrial district long before the Navy arrived. With that being said, it's also important to point out that the late 19th century also saw the rise of shipbuilding as a vital industry at Hunters Point. For example, in 1868, the site became home to the first permanent dry dock on the west coast of the U.S. By the turn of the century, Hunters Point had established itself as a shipbuilding hub, capable of handling increasingly large vessels, setting the stage for a major naval presence. Hunters Point's transformation into a naval powerhouse began with the expansion of its docks by the Union Iron Works Company. In 1916, these dry docks became known as the largest in the world, measuring over 1,000 feet and able to support warships, steamers, and large commercial vessels. The deep waters near Hunters Point, with soundings over 65 feet, made it a rare and valuable deepwater site on the west coast, an asset the Navy was keen to secure. As the world drifted towards conflict in the early 20th century, the U.S. Navy's interest in Hunters Point intensified. By 1940, the Navy acquired Hunters Point from Bethlehem Steel for $6 million, establishing it as Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. The shipyard's acquisition came just in time for World War II, as the U.S. saw an urgent need for military shipbuilding as well as repair facilities, and the progress didn't take long. Hunters Point soon became one of the largest shipyards on the Pacific coast, employing thousands who migrated to San Francisco for wartime work. Men and women alike took up roles across the shipyard, from welders to machinists, driving the massive wartime output required by the Navy. By 1945, the shipyard was operating around the clock, producing, repairing, and outfitting hundreds of vessels, crucial to the Allied war effort in the Pacific. Though following the war, the site shifted focus, becoming the home to the Naval Radiological Defense Laboratory from 1946 all the way up to 1969. The NRDL, as they're also known, conducted research on nuclear decontamination and radiological safety, playing a role in pioneering techniques for dealing with irradiated ships. And it would be this new chapter that introduced the radiological risks that would later complicate the shipyard's environmental legacy. Now, when you look at this area of San Francisco today, it's almost hard to imagine the level of activity that once filled these docks, with thousands working day and night to keep the Navy's fleet afloat. Hunters Point Naval Shipyard was a marvel of logistical organization. By 1948, the shipyard featured 7 dry docks and numerous facilities for nearly every conceivable type of repair. Dry dock number 4, for instance, was the largest in the U.S. at the time, serving as the shipyard's crown jewel and capable of accommodating large battleships. The shipyard boasted its own sheet metal, steel, and rigging shops, along with facilities for electronics, painting, and even a forge. This self-sustained city within a city included a cafeteria, police and fire departments, an apprentice shop, and even a radiation laboratory, reflecting its extensive scale and complexity. Another key component of Hunters Point's capabilities was its colossal crane, constructed in 1947. Built by the American Bridge Company, this crane was the largest in the country at the time, allowing for rapid removal and reinstallation of ship turrets. Later, the crane supported missile testing programs such as Operation Skycatch in 1959. Its scale and technical design made it an enduring symbol of the shipyard's engineering achievements. One of the first of these was President Theodore Roosevelt's Great White Fleet, a show of American naval power consisting of 16 battleships. The fleet docked at Hunters Point in 1907 for repairs and outfitting before embarking on a worldwide voyage, marking an early milestone in the shipyard's strategic importance. And then, of course, there was the USS Indianapolis's departure from Hunters Point some decades later in 1945, which was another historical high point. This ship, carrying critical components of the atomic bomb, known as Little Boy, would later complete one of the war's most consequential missions. The link between Hunters Point and pivotal moments in history solidified its reputation as a critical U.S. Navy asset. In 1946, Hunters Point participated in Operation Crossroads, a series of nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll. The site served as a launch and return point for the ships involved in that operation. The Navy's decontamination efforts, however, were inadequate, as radioactive materials remained on vessels even after decontamination. The operation underscored the challenges of dealing with nuclear fallout and highlighted the limits of knowledge on radiological hazards at the time. In the post-war years, Hunters Point was also the home to the Pacific Reserve Fleet. Here, the Navy stored mothball ships, ready for potential reactivation. These ships played a crucial role in the Korean and Vietnam Wars, reinforcing the strategic importance of maintaining a ready reserve fleet. Even so, the shipyard was in decline. However, there was one final hope. In 1986, when the Navy briefly considered making Hunters Point the home port for the USS Missouri. The downfall of this great shipyard was not inconsequential to the surrounding community. Remember, Hunters Point's development as a shipyard created a robust local economy and brought about significant social changes. As I previously mentioned, during World War II, the shipyard's workforce grew dramatically as thousands of Americans moved to the area for shipyard jobs. This influx transferred Hunters Point into one of the most economically diverse neighborhoods in San Francisco, with people from all backgrounds working side by side to support the war effort. But when those jobs disappeared, the area fell into something of a state of disarray. What's more, years of ship maintenance, radiological testing, and heavy industrial activity had lasting effects on the area, and they were not good effects. You see, following the shipyard's closure, Hunters Point was declared a Superfund site, a designation meant to prioritize extensive cleanup and environmental redemption due to industrial contamination. This process has been complicated and controversial, as efforts to decontaminate the land have faced both logistical and regulatory hurdles. A state of affairs that pretty much bring us up to the current era. The contemporary cleanup of Hunters Point is extensive, involving multiple phases of decontamination across the ship's parcels. Each parcel undergoes rigorous testing and remediation to ensure safety for potential redevelopment. Since 2000, environmental and city agencies have monitored the cleanup to ensure it meets necessary standards. Proposition P, passed by San Francisco voters, called for the highest levels of decontamination, and today, Hunters Point is undergoing environmental scrutiny to align with these strict standards. In the meantime, Hunters Point has also become home to a thriving community of artists who rent studios in the former naval buildings, a sign that the cleanup efforts were bringing a positive and desired effect. By 2015, the first residential units opened, and new developments have introduced more housing options despite ongoing cleanup work. I'd also like to point out that Hunters Point's artist community reflects a new chapter for the area, a chapter where creative expression flourishes amid a very storied history. And we'll leave it there for today, but if you thought this story was interesting, you should definitely see our episode about what might have been America's worst industrial accident by clicking right here. Otherwise, I hope that you'll help us cross that 700,000 subscriber mark by clicking the subscribe button right now. And until next time, I'm Ryan Socash, signing off. And don't forget to check out Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus by clicking that download link in the pinned comments or scanning the QR code on screen. Remember, use the code NOVHELLO to get 2,000 gold and 50 blackstones to give you a little extra boost to get started.